exhilaration of travel, being miles above the ground as we journey from Michigan to San Francisco, California. Nary a cloud in the sky, departing from the Midwest and setting sail for the grandeur of the West Coast. Truly the greatest advancement in travel modern man has access to. In a mere 5 hours, my wife and I will be soaking in the sun, seeing the sights, and relaxing in the city. There's just one minor problem.
Bro, I hate flying! It gives me so much anxiety! It's like a non-stop panic attack!
So yeah, I can't fucking handle flying. Even on the best flights, my anxiety runs rampant and my size creates a non-stop discomfort I have no ability to escape from. So fuck it. I have to keep myself sane somehow. Let's travel through the Sega Saturn again to see what we can discover. The same as last time, these are not reviews, and I have not looked at these games up ahead of time, nor likely afterwards. This is about finding something I've never heard of before, and experiencing the thrill of that discovery. It's almost guaranteed we will run into Japanese games, so in many cases there are going to be significant roadblocks in being unable to speak or read the language. But that's a vital part of the method. So, I got 10 hours round trip to sweat through, see if I find anything. There is something about Hissatsu that makes me think it's like a movie adaptation or something. I'm not looking it up because that defeats the fun of the series, but there's a bit of filmic quality to it. Like something about the presentation of the characters and the stylings of the graphics lends itself towards a more grounded and serious visual feel. And I think that's what hooked me in at first. Hissatsu feels different. Now, we are dealing with Sega's system here, so I should probably clear the air and say I've really never cared for any of the Shinobi series, so maybe plot my experiences with Sega side-scrollers along that note. But Hissatsu immediately grabs my attention in a way I personally am much more open to. Instead of just one character, you get to pick out two from a cast of 4 to take on each level. Sword, Monk, Nail, and Chain. I'm just calling them by nicknames, obviously. While Sword takes the most direct approach to side-scrolling like this, the other 3 are much more interesting characters. Each of them lack combat skills in the pocket that Sword does, but offer different amounts of ranged combat. Monk has a punch, but also a costly projectile that blows through enemies and walls. Nail is more mobile and has a bit better physical attack, but his throwing nails are cheaper and less powerful. Chain is almost purely mid-range, having more range than anyone else for a melee strike and an elongated directional chain attack for his ranged move. The system feels fun in your hands, giving you not only 4 different ways to play the game, but allowing you to pick 2 of them at the same time. The first 2 levels are child's play. Basically, you just hold forward and leave bodies at your feet. Each level has a boss at the end that's mildly more difficult, but still super doable, especially for people not named Sword. What's cool is that when you kill them, you get these awesome kill cutscenes. Monk destroyed this dude's spine with an energy ball. Chain strung up this jabron to hang to death. It's violent, but in a way that's to a point. Your squad feels like badass motherfuckers, like whatever it is that has these dudes fighting sure done fucked up by making them take action, because payback comes with interest. That's the other thing that separates this from a Ninja Gaiden or a Shinobi. There is a healthy amount of cutscene after each level. Whatever is going on in this story is important because it gets time to breathe. Sadly, the 3rd level is a drastic step up in difficulty. These green ninjas attack from a distance and either duck your ranged attacks or block you up close, and between that and the stray hits the bats get in on you, it really starts to add up. What is the bigger problem is that I couldn't figure out how to get the camera to look below me, like if that was even an option. You can look up to see what's above you on the screen, but the 3rd level is a bunch of descending platforming. It's all too easy to fall into spikes or an enemy encounter and just take errant damage you are not prepared for. I busted out at this level and lost all my continues. So that ends my ride there, but Hissatsu impressed me while I was playing. There's a good enough sense of arcade platformer fun to it, but the more dark and mature presentation lends itself to feeling a lot more gritty and rugged. Feels like a violent samurai movie, and that's fucking badass. don't be a visual novel. Please don't be a visual novel. Please don't be a visual novel. Fuck yeah, baby! Oh god, I'm sorry. It's just like, I just can't take another beautiful 90s anime girl opening like this for only there to be nothing I can interact with afterwards. My heart is just so weak when the 90s anime girls show up. It's so nostalgic and comforting, especially when I'm playing these games in this format. Like, this isn't so different from back in the day where the majority of anime exposure I would get was trailers and teasers and other works that I had no way of actually watching. Let's go on an adventure! I'm gonna take my girls through the town, gonna get some weapons and armor, then I'm gonna roll outside and stomp some... Okay, so overworld movement is done automatically between towns, meaning I don't have random battles in the overworld, and am ironically kind of struggling to find out where I go to do a fight with my fight girls. These towns are no joke too. 4 in total, counting the one you start in, and there's a sizable amount of real estate in each one. Some NPCs get little animated cut-ins and voiceover, but many others litter the streets. These towns just feel a tad bit larger than the era would normally allow for, and it makes me wish I could do more exploring, especially with how many you get from Jump Street. 4 towns of this size is a huge amount of zone to work with. I did find that back in the starting town there was an option to go to the arena, and after poking around for a bit I found out how to enter and fight. The combat system it's okay. I've always disliked the super traditional JRPG style where you only see the enemies and not your characters, but I know that's just personal preference. The real bummer is that despite being an open-air arena, the battle background is a nondescript brown hallway, which leads me to believe that this is the default look for any battle, or at least most of them. To counteract this, the enemy sprites are beautiful. The first thugs you take down are whatever, but the next 2 fights look to be against fellow travelers, and just look at this character work. You're telling me I gotta fight a cute bunny girl adventurer? Man, hell no. This is a cruel world we live in. The combat itself I can only grasp the very basics of. You have 3 characters, the 4th being a non-playable helper I think, and each of them gets 10 TP per turn. You get access to some attacks with variable TP costs, so it looks like you have to decide what's the best attack for the job. I was not able to read the stats on my characters, but I believe this is your main warrior, she's the mage, and I'm not sure what role she is, but by virtue of genre savvy, I'm gonna say thief or rogue or something like that. The problem I ran into afterwards is that I wasn't sure where to go to advance. I don't know many JRPGs that give you such a large amount of space to play with at the start, so trying to figure out where my objective was across 4 towns was a little bit more than my illiterate ass could handle. But before we leave Eiyuu, Shigan, Galhacked Heroism, I want to comment on the fantasy vibe. In the last Age of Discovery video, I kind of mentioned it with Melting Lancer, how sci-fi and fantasy were sometimes just smashed together, regardless of if they should be. That comes across in Galhacked Heroism as well. You start off exiting a school which has a shockingly modern feel about it. Everything else is the standard 90s fantasy setting, but this corner of the starting town has these very futuristic looking tanks going on. I love that. Like, I really enjoy the brazenness, let's say, of just throwing everything into the pot, and it feels like one of the call signs of this era. Cool game. Would love to play more if possible. Oh, look at him. He's just a little boy. So I've never fucked with the Lemming series because it honestly has never appealed to me, but Gussun Oyoyo S feels like it's got a bit of that DNA going on here. The goal is to build the board in such a way that little baby man here can make it to the exit.
Baby man, little baby man, little baby man, little baby man.
He isn't gonna sit still either. He's off on his merry little way, so you better build up a goal and keep him in gay baby jail at the same time. This is easily one of the most playable games I've encountered, and not just because of the lack of language barrier. Gussun Oyoyo S fucking rules. The act of building or destroying blocks to get your little boy to the exit while keeping him alive is real difficult. After a certain amount of time, water will slowly start rising from the level, meaning you cannot dawdle, and honestly there is an intense amount of sweatiness when realizing you are under the gun. You can actually use the blocks to squish enemies or push the boy and try and expedite his movement, but stay on this path too long and you could trap him or put a block where it doesn't need to go or push an enemy right into his path. The challenges in moving, the feeling of being on the timer, and the randomness of the block drops make this game way more difficult than it might seem at first blush. But when you do successfully take little baby man to the exit, you fucking stand up in Tiger Woods fist pump in victory. It feels great. The boy is also just a great mascot character. He has been given so many animations, both in cutscenes and in gameplay. Big exaggerated features like these huge shocked faces or his eyes bugging out when he's getting squished. But there's also so much characterization in his little movements. I love the way he swings his arms, how he looks shocked when he sees a wall, how he wipes the sweat off his brow. A lot of the art and design for this game slams, but holy crap, does the little boy sing as a standout character. And if that isn't enough, the game does not run out of tricks. Once a level asks you to do or learn something, it is already on to the next idea. It doesn't linger or ask you to do the same thing twice. It constantly brings new ideas to the table every other stage or so, and it makes the game feel super fresh and exciting. Especially with how difficult a lot of these stages are. Like, some of these stages have little, even smaller, boys that you can collect, and getting 10 of them gives you a 1-up, but bro, that is not helping in the grand scheme of things, because you are gonna die a lot in this game. Bad luck on the blocks, accidental squishes, improperly jailing the boy while you are building to the exit. Gussun Oyoyo S is not easy at all. Absolutely give this a try. I can't think of too many arcade puzzlers like this. The game asks you to manage 2 separate tasks and gives you just enough tools to do so, but still requires you to think on your feet and adapt or die trying. Totally wicked game, cannot recommend trying this enough. Am I wrong in thinking that this type of top-down, non-isometric action game is just gone? Like, the only other thing I can think of is fucking Herc's Adventure, or like a denser JRPG like the Mana series or something. This game also fucking rules. It is 90s childhood fantasy up and down this bitch. Bright, attractive colors, fantasy anthropomorphic characters. You gotta love this shit. The best part, and I cannot express enough how well this works in your hands, is how Linkle controls. When she runs, she has this careening momentum when trying to turn that immediately feels like trying to control a small, excited child. It completes the whole vibe. All of the color and the fun and the idyllic vibes are perfect in this game. And fuck me, is it beautiful. Like, obviously there's these gorgeous sprites all over the place, but look at these motherfucking trees. Not only are they just stunning, but you can see how they reflect in the water. It is fucking perfect. It does not get better than this. With this being more of an action-adventure game, I was pretty okay getting through it without too much confusion. You play tag with your elder, you find your little buddy companion, and then you defeat a harmless water boss. Nothing a bit of exploring can't handle. With the tutorial out of the way, you get access to the world map and a couple new locations. By breaking this boulder, you find Buddy here, assumedly in need of some help, and a castle one location over is your first real level in the game. You run through here slapping baddies, avoiding spikes, and taking out these large machines on each level. The castle ends with an interesting boss battle. This dude will puff out smoke you need to chop through while avoiding the clock hand spinning around the arena. Pretty neat concept right out of the gate. With the castle wiped out, you can do whatever the hell this is back at Buddy's place, get the axe as a new weapon. This game is so close to being 100% playable without the need to read, but it's just missing like that last 10% of direction needed. If there is one place Linkle Liver Story falls down a bit, it would be combats. You start out with a staff to hit baddies, but the range is pathetic. Starting an attack too close means you might get hit before you end up defeating them, and that puts a damper on the free-spirited romp of movement. You can do this fun roll out of dashes, but it does no damage, and you can charge up your attack to launch your companion, but they only cause a stun. It makes combat such an ugly slog, interrupting the flow of the game. I'm sure you get better weapons as the game goes on, but damn is it rough out of the gate. I want to play more of this. After I got the axe, I kinda wasn't able to parse what my next step was, but for a while, I was fucking cooking with this game. Linkle Liver Story is a beautiful little experience. Not only is it perfectly bright and anime looking, but you just have to take a spin trying to control Linkle as she dashes around. It's so joyous. I don't know how else to describe it. I want to be disappointed I couldn't play more, but man, I got further in this than a lot of other things, so I'll take what I was given. This may come as a surprise to you, but I haven't magically become fluent in reading Japanese since the last video. Shocker, I know. But before we take a trip into games I am basically showing off because they have cool animated intros, let's divert a little. One thing I really picked up during this exploratory journey was the 3D animated company logos prevalent in so many games. Now, I assume that this is because we are dealing with one of the first jaunts into home console 3D, but it's just so comfy feeling. Like everyone's playing with their new toy and seeing what they can come up with. There's a real heartwarming charm to this type of design. As the years go on, this is deprioritized, but in this era and in this moment, it's fun to show off. I like that a lot. Anyways, on to shit I can't fucking read. Kawaii no Summer Fantasy in Miyazaki Sigaya is a one-on-one battle of wits with you and girl here. I am going to assume Miyazaki Sigaya is a real-life destination. It looks like some sort of getaway from the intro video. And you get to, gallivant around with this lady who just comes up to you in the wave pool. And you talk. And you talk. And you talk. I honestly tried to play this for a while, but all you do is talk to the girl. I assume there's a lot of asking questions going on, as even with my lack of Japanese literacy, I can identify when someone wants to know my blood type. Honestly, I was like 20 plus minutes into talking before I even got to input my fucking name. Wow, how rude, not even asking me who I am. Depending on your answers, you can either get little cheers for success or bricks for failure.
Ooh, that's bad. That's good. Ooh, that's bad. Ooh, that's bad. Ooh, that's bad.
Yeah, sometimes you get a good and a bad in the same sequence. It's totally not apparent what these lead to. No affection meter or anything I could find. Honestly, I'm gonna call it like I see it. Kawaii no Summer Fantasy feels like some sort of girlfriend replacement. There's nowhere near enough elements at play to make it feel like it's a dating sim, and the intro video really gives off the vibe that you are paying money to have a video game vacation with a cute girl. Also, it's like kinda slow. Like, check out this sequence here. I have not edited this. There's a lot of downtime going on. The intro slams though. This track's a fucking bop and a half. Since I'm married, I decided to skip Find Love 1 and move directly on to Find Love 2. Find Love 2, the prologue, is, well, it's something. The game feels structureless to the point where I don't understand it. It feels like you're playing a game in a game, as the text mentions both Find Love 1 and Find Love 2, and then you're playing the game by picking one of the Find Love 2 paraphernalia off your table. This serves as your main menu. Like, this is how you get your gallery mode and your options mode and play the game, I fucking guess. There's one mode that plays a music video for each girl, complete with cheesecloth visuals pumping and sweating to churn out 12 frames per second. There's another mode where you call the girl on the video phone, I guess. And then what I assume is the meat and potatoes option has you go on the most awkward and stilted date imaginable. Like, this presentation feels more akin to an educational game, and the only reason I could interpret it as a date is because the game is called fucking Find Love. It's so dry and lacking in communication or interesting visual expressions. Like, wowee, check out that 2-frame flap lip in action. Fuck yeah, baby. Let me know what that mouth do. Maybe I was being hard on Kawaii no Summer Fantasy. The girl there at least felt like she was engaged in conversation with me, even if that conversation might be trying to figure out my blood type and if I have a spare kidney. Find Love 2, the prologue, is so confusing. I am legitimately unsure what it's trying to be. You can look at some of the screens and probably say, oh yeah, dating visual novel, but it lacks all of the narrative that would make something like that. You just start by talking to these girls. There's no main character establishing or scene meeting them or anything that would set this up in a way a story would require. Unless this is a direct continuation from Find Love 1 that assumes you know everyone, and even then the subtitle would cause more confusion. This game comes off like a source book for girls than an interactive medium that includes them. Once again, this isn't weird because it's Japanese and I can't read it. It's weird because even next to contemporaries I cannot read, it is so strangely structured that I cannot grasp what it's trying to be. I actually did break the rules here. It turns out Find Love 2, the prologue, is a promotional disc for the full release of Find Love 2 Rhapsody.
So I was correct. It almost is like a source book.
Who's ready for anime openings? So Device Reign is one of the later games we'll be looking at, coming from 1999, and you can really feel that come through in the art and presentation. The character designs are a little more mature and edgy cool. You have shots of over-designed cyber weaponry, and there's this turn of the millennium feeling to the constant flash cut style backgrounds in these shots. I love the way this looks. It has some of the same feelings as like a fighting game, specifically an SNK game from this era. Lots of trendy fashion and cool feeling to the designs. And this continues into the game itself. There is a very modern look to the UI. The character portraits and text box take up a lot of the screen, but in a way that feels very well used. We get our starting 3 characters, and their headshots have enough variety to give off a bit of visual emotion with their personality. As for the story itself, it seems rooted in heady sci-fi shit. We get shots of what looks like rules of perception, reality warping interstitials when an obvious villain shows up. Whatever the concept going on here is. It seems very interesting and the type of shit I would be down for. But here's where we get thrown for a loop. After doing a significant amount of VN gameplay, we find out this is actually a tactical RPG. The black-haired girl you meet gives us the edgy cyber weapons, and we take to the grid to ward off some baddies. The combat is mostly understandable, but you can tell there's a lot going on to really sink your teeth into. It's not parsable what all your gauges immediately do, and each character looks like they have about 6 different attacks at their disposal. Fuck, just look at all this. There's some real crunchy shit going on. As much as this was way more playable on the curve, I can still only progress so far. But what I saw from Device Reign puts it like right behind 6-inch My Darling in games that I am actively disappointed I can't play. There's a super unique style and gameplay that really speaks to me, and it makes me long for the ability to engage with it more than I can given my language barrier. It being such a late stage product for the system not only makes it look different in terms of production, but also just in terms of style and zeitgeist. You can compare this back to games like 4 odd years earlier and see the changes in culture, and I think that's real cool. So Himitsu Sentai Metamor V gets its own section because it's kinda different from the other text-heavy adventure visual novel games, because it has no text. The premise is simple enough looking. These 5 middle schoolers can transform into adult heroes to fight crime or bad guys or whatever. I love how Yellow goes from timid and shy to endlessly confident. Yeah, that tracks. You got a huge rack and probably feel different. If I magically got banging tits, you probably couldn't get me to shut up. Anyways, it looks like you have—
Hey, yo!
Take a look at this. Brutus, this is incredible. What a package.
Bro, I do not need to see the vein on the Snickers. I guess it's all fair play since we constantly see titty covered up in full detail, so this dude gets to be bricked up and everyone knows it. So unlike the previous games, there's actually no text here at all. Everything is a voice-acted performance with 2 shoulder-up headshots, and anyone not in scene kind of ends up above them, just hanging out. This has a great amount of work put into it. There's a lot of expressions and facial changes for the characters, and the dialogue is not brief. They put a fucking ton of voice lines in this game, and the acting is quite good, and the audio quality is not compressed or anything.
ここは危険。早く逃げましょう。そうだね。この二人慣れてるって何なのよ。
Even though I can't understand what they're saying, the performances in the animation make me feel like I can still follow what's going on. There's almost no interaction during these scenes. In fact, you can't really even advance the dialogue like how you could with scrolling text. The only thing you do is occasionally, Red will have the option to respond with an emotion: excited, quizzical, or depressed. I don't know if there's a right or wrong way to respond to things, but my assumption is that the more correct response will give you more affection points with the rest of your squad. On occasion, a set of words will appear below the scene, but there isn't anything you do with them. It feels like a stage play, a flat background with the actors taking turn on center stage. And I don't mean like Broadway, but like one of those Japanese stage plays for children. No interaction, just a play for emotion. There's something very interesting seeing that DNA show up in a video game, a medium defined by its interactivity, but the way this game presents itself is so antithetical to what you expect from video games. The story has the girls palling around school until everyone but Blue gets wrapped up with some sort of bad guy out in the schoolyard. Captain Penis shows up again to help the girls transform, and we get a more extended sequence for Red and her little henshin watch. With all the available squad ready to fight, gameplay switches over to a battle system. You start by putting words together. I assume that these are the words that popped up during dialogue, and you are combining them to make special attacks. Each combination gives you a star, and once fighting, each girl can spend a star to do a special attack. The battle system is all flat images, which kinda kills the vibe, especially with how animated the rest of the game is. But after a very by-the-numbers turn-based battle, you defeat the Robo-Pirate dude and win the day. And then, the episode ends. You actually get a next time on teaser and a quick credits roll before the next episode starts. This is what makes Himitsu Sentai Metamor V cool. Totally nails the feeling of a Monster of the Week anime. I had to look up if this is adapted off of an existing anime, and it isn't. And I find that shocking because it feels expressly designed to evoke that feeling. It's so interesting not being something already made, but feeling like an adaptation. And being a very, very good one at that. Doing this series has been a lot of fun, but there has understandably been a lack of games I can really sink my teeth into. Most of the stuff I play kind of falls into fun curiosities or oddities, since I lack the skills or language necessary to really engage with them. But what I've been hoping to find, what I've really wanted to encounter while doing this series, was something like Bulk Slash. Holy fuck. Bulk Slash fucking rules. There has been a lot of 90s kidding in this series for obvious reasons, given my age and the time frame of games we're covering, but fuck, dude, this is the shit we were into. I love 90s anime girls, and I love cool mecha. Life was just so simple when the only thing bigger than the anime girl's hair was the mecha robot next to him. There's just this indescribable cool factor to anime girls and mecha that feels lost in today's age. Maybe that's me being older than the current target market, but fuck! Bulk Slash was meant for people like me. So remember how back in the last Discovery video I was kind of gushing about Melty Lancer's low poly city? Well, guess what's back, bitch? Bulk Slash is a mecha shooter where you traverse a just, plain, gorgeous low poly cityscape to take down mission targets. It is stunning how beautiful and lagless the experience of flying through the map is. Everything is bright and colorful, and it pops so well to the eye. It's just fucking phenomenal looking, and the fact that the game plays as crisp as it does while running around is mind-boggling. It takes a little bit of time to get used to the control scheme, as it operates a little weird without dual sticks, and both grounded and aerial movement control a little bit different. But once you feel comfortable with it, there is so much kinesthetic joy in being a Robotech-ass mecha pilot careening around the city shooting things up. On the ground, you have a machine gun that can be upgraded to a flamethrower, a homing laser, or a multi-directional napalm shot. If you don't fire and don't take damage for a bit, you can throw a grenade for an AoE attack. You also get the lone melee attack when within range of a target. In the air, you only get access to the machine gun, but instead of an AoE grenade, you have these awesome homing missiles. You can control your flight speed to adjust your dogfighting and approach. The combination of these modes leads to such a thrilling feeling of being a mecha pilot taking on an army, and I mean like a fucking army. There's so much shit on the screen, and very, very rarely will you ever get any sort of lag with all the action going on. There are only 7 levels, but they are also tightly designed. It's incredible. After you get a couple all-purpose attack levels, they start throwing in fun objectives at you. Protect a cargo ship, fly through space to drop explosives, go through an interior maze as a grounded unit to collect objectives. All of these do such a great job of working within the ways that you can control your mecha, so it becomes vital to understand how to properly pilot both in the air and on the ground. Each level also contains an anime girl you can collect. Your mecha has a miss system, whereby having a female co-pilot of sorts, you get access to additional benefits. I believe you can level the miss you have, as they are all supposed to have different benefits, but I'm not able to tell what the individual benefits are. They also affect the ending, as it changes based on who your miss at the time is. Typically, I just recommend finding a miss that doesn't blow the speakers out screaming every time you take a hit. But once you finish each level, it's not over. Every level has a boss fight that is just fucking stunning. These boss fights are the highlight of the game. They are not overly difficult, but they are so much fun to engage with. The level 2 Mecha Butterfly is this dogfight where you are making aerial drive-bys to fire off missiles, and when you hit the map button during boss fights, you briefly lock onto a boss's location, giving you the ability to climb after it when it takes to the skies. And fucking look at this footage. When you shoot towards the stars, the rain angles itself properly. It isn't just an overlay, it's moving in perspective to you. This game is fucking incredible. The soundtrack is good. Like, there's some standout tracks, but the real star of the show are the final objective theme and the boss theme.
ターゲットをセット。残り1個です。左方向です。
Typically, when you have one objective left, this energetic fanfare will start playing and it really pumps up the intensity, making you feel like you are hitting the climax of the level. What marries this in beautiful fashion is that the next theme you hear is the boss theme, which also bangs, but it makes for this 1-2 punch of tunes that become instantly iconic to the game and the way you play it.
前方です。前方です。
Because this game is so arcadey and short, with each level having a 10-minute time limit, they come off feeling like themes in a Monster of the Week mecha anime, the type of shit that is reserved for the conflict at the end of the episode. It's so well realized and effective and works beautifully within the size and the space of the game. The only thing that brings Bulk Slash down is the final level. Whereas levels 1 through 6 are joyful mecha fighting, level 7 is a confusing labyrinth with mini bosses and no health pickups I could find. Unlike the grounded level, which has you fighting in bipedal mode, this cramped maze kills off all of the fun of such limitations and makes for a level that is only frustrating and dumb. I had to turn the difficulty down because even on normal, it's so punishing. And I get that the difficulty spike might be a true challenge to pad out the game, but shit, I'll just go replay levels 1 through 6 again. Fuck it, this game rips. Bulk Slash makes this whole series worth it. Finding something this cool, this playable, with wicked graphics, sounds, and ideas was finding that beautiful needle in the haystack. I'll suffer through endless text-based games if there is a chance of finding something even half as cool as Bulk Slash again. I cannot implore you enough to get a Sega Saturn emulator and give Bulk Slash a spin. I almost guarantee you will enjoy yourself. There's almost nothing you will play like this out there, and with a breezy arcade length to it, you can just sit down and crank through this in an evening. Holy shit. This game is phenomenal. To peel back the curtain and be completely honest, most of these games were not played on the plane. Bulk Slash worked wonders when on the plane and hitting minor turbulence, but otherwise it was actually really difficult for me to be calm and collected when constantly playing endless amounts of text-heavy visual novels or adventure games. Like, the amount I blew through in this video is so much more than what I talked about. I just picked up some of the ones that were the most interesting to expound on, but Jesus, I was fucking lousy with them. I think that's one of the things that shocked me the most. Like, obviously, I'm kind of looking for Japanese games I've never heard of, but wowee, there were so many of them in this visual novel, adventure game, sim style. It's really cool just to see a whole genre of things you missed by being born in the West as opposed to in the East. And if I did have any literacy in Japan, there's easily a couple of these I would have sat down to read through. I've really fallen in love with this video series. As always, I hope my joy can be apparent in the video, but the act of finding something so cool that I've never seen or heard of before is exhilarating. Especially when that something is Bulk Slash. Like, holy fuck, what a game. Rest assured, you will see more of this series in the future. One day I might even dabble into the PS1. But I have a lot more exploring in the Sega Saturn to do before I make the jump over to Sony's big dog. See you all next time I boot up some random Japanese Saturn games.